Okay, committee members, Ann Kavanaugh,
Is here.
Mike Kasperbeck,
Here.
Rena Keith, David Lynn, Joe Pascal,
Here.
Hudson, Mary Yen,
Present.
Vice Chair Jamil Sheikh,
Here.
and Chair Kamala Baird.
Here. Okay, great. Thank you. Our next point of order is to approve the minutes. Has everyone had the opportunity to look at the minutes, and are there any corrections or additions?
I will move adoption to the minutes.
Wait, is there anyone in the, on Zoom who would like to make
You can
Okay.
make the motion.
a, right, you can make the motion, but we can't vote on it. So is there anyone from the general public wishing to make a
Was
comment?
there?
Second.
Okay, no one second. Now,
Okay.
at this point, any member on the, on Zoom wishing to make a comment on the minutes, feel free to raise your hand or hit *6. Not seeing any hands. So we can move forward with-
Okay, so the motion has been made and seconded. Just to raise hands.
All those in favor?
Aye. The motion passes. Item 4, upcoming agenda topics. Do we have anything you're suggesting, or can we suggest some items?
Can suggest items. I have reached out to the local nonprofit that deals with the sister cities relationships. I know that was an interest in a prior meeting to have that discussion. I've reached out to see if they are available for the next committee meeting to come talk about sister cities and see what the opportunities may or may not be. So I'm looking to get that agendized here.
So there's, Palo Alto is, and Vicki Venker has started a new program called Sibling Cities. And it might be worth, because Sister Cities is international, Sibling Cities is domestic.
Yeah, so I know Vicki and
Yeah.
attended a couple of preliminary things that she put together, so if you don't mind me stating a little bit about it, I don't know if that gets it into an agenda item that's not been agenda.
It's a little bit more than just future topics.
Right, right. So anyway, I could reach out to Vicki and, or give her your contact information, but it's an interesting premise. In fact, they've had a couple of
Mhm.
joint town halls this fall. I raised a point, there was an article recently in the local newspaper about a planning commissioner in Los Altos who wrote a letter to city council. And there was some consternation about that, and there was talk of maybe censoring her. Our committee is a little bit different in that we advise staff, we don't advise city council. But since we have some newer members on the committee, I didn't know whether this would be something that we need to clarify or whether I'm looking for something that's not a problem.
Yeah, we can certainly do a little tutorial about where are you acting as a committee member versus a member of the public versus another hat. Where is it appropriate to be making those statements?
You do send out for like new committee members, I know there's like, sort of like the it's code of conduct and sort of the council norms of, you know, what we do. I don't personally think we should take up a whole meeting or meeting time to do that, but just make sure that new members.
The clerk does it, but it's always a good refresher, so you can always redistribute it.
Okay.
Just as a good refresher.
Yeah, and to Mike's point, I'm not trying to create work for staff. It's always good to have a reminder. So if you can do it in 5 minutes or less, that's fine.
Well, I mean, whenever we do the ethics training, we can tap that thing and get to read at the same time. And to read
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Yeah, in ethics, whenever we do that, 1, 2, 3, maybe. Maybe it's a good time to just review that. I mean,
I think what Pam is suggesting is we sort of get a refresher, is that?
Right.
Yeah, exactly, because I did the ethic training, but that was like,
No, but at the same time, we just attach that
been a while.
attachment, refresher, so.
You know, you don't actually have to do the AB
I-
1234 training if you don't get paid or
Oh.
you don't take financial benefits
Oh,
like
interesting.
tickets.
But if you do, so,
Right.
anyway, I'm not trying to create.
refresher is great.
Work for staff, so if you think we can do it in 5 minutes or less, that would be fine. Are there any other topics that were? I have a question. I forgot my lipstick this morning, so I went over to CVS and tried to go in the door on the corner, and it says enter through the garage. Is that a result of safety concerns? Or is that something that we maybe need to have a report in the future, have the police report in? I was kind of surprised.
I'm gonna put that under item 8 as a comeback to, and can circle back whether that's a PD update or some other issue, so.
And maybe we could even pull it into what the safety departments are planning on doing on the upcoming holidays and just sort of a general topic so that we're advised, because people in the community do ask it to us. Happening. Okay.
But,
any other-
you know, just following up on that, I think from a PD report on like downtown crime activity would be worth a new, and not citywide, but
Not right, just downtown.
the downtown.
And if we're gonna have an ambassador program. Any other comments or suggestions? Okay, we don't have to ask the public. Okay. All right, we'll move on to oral communications from the public. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the committee on any matter not on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. State law prohibits the committee from acting on any non-agenda items. Comments from the public.
Our attendees on Zoom, if you wish to make a public comment at this time, please raise your hand or hit *6. That'll let us know you're interested in speaking. I'm not seeing any hands, and it's all staff here in this room, so.
Okay, well, we'll close that portion and we'll go to item number 6, unfinished business, downtown development update, and we have.
Edgar with planning department will provide the update.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm John Maravilla, Senior Planner.
Edgar, can I ask you to come up here, because it's really actually hard to hear you when you're in the back. Especially the people. on-
Yeah.
I want to take over the seats.
See, you should have brought much
Should have brought your coffee.
All right.
Edgar Maravilla, Senior Planner. There is no new project on the list. There is a few updates I do want to highlight. And that is item number 5, which is 705 Pasadena. You'll see on there, it is scheduled for an administrative zoning/subdivision committee meeting. That is on October 11th. Agenda should post the Friday before, which is, I think it's this Friday, so you'll be able to see what the hearing is for. As well as item number 7, which is.
Question.
Yes.
Is item number 5 at all related to or touching the hotel development project?
Not to my knowledge.
Thank you.
No, it's for this lockdown.
Thank you.
But we have 701 West Adeline Avenue, which is number 7. That one there, you'll see there is a public hearing for the project that's tentatively scheduled. Similarly for October 11th with the zoning administrator, that's what TA stands for, and November 7th for council.
So the ZA is usually at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, is that correct?
Correct, on the Wednesday, yeah. And it sounds like this will be a recommendation to council.
Okay, and then it would be the same for item number 5, that would be at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
4 o'clock is correct. All zoning administrator hearings for the most part, unless modified, are at 4 o'clock.
Diana, you had a clarifying comment.
Yeah, Diana Pincholi, Principal Planner with the Planning Division. So we're anticipating both 705 West Dana, the mixed-use project with office on the top and restaurant use at the bottom, and the Marwood project to come to the same ZA hearing on October 11th, and subsequently going to the City Council.
And then the final update on here is number 21 to the downtown precise plan, which is the comprehensive update that Principal Planner Pancholi is working on. So she will be the best reference if you do have questions about where that stands and where it's going and what the vision is for that.
And it looks like it's going to the city council on November 7th.
That's correct. It's a study session meeting.
And that, I think, is just a study session. Can you explain to us what the difference of a study session would mean rather than a?
Sure, yeah. So usually study sessions are where we're there to kind of get direction from city council before we formalize something and bring it. They're not making any formal decisions on anything. It's just about gathering more direction from them, like, is this the right direction we are going? What else would you like us to consider when we bring it back? So I can speak to this particular item. November 7th, we're tentatively hoping to introduce the project to city council and also discuss with them that throughout these years, through different projects, we have heard these key themes about stuff that we would like to revisit for our downtown. What do you think about these, and are there others that you would like staff to consider when we actually formally prepare our scope of work for the project update? And based on the direction, we'll formalize our scope of work, send out RFPs to get consultants, and bring it back to city council for a formal approval of the scope of work. So there will be a public hearing where they'll do a formal action on it, add more comments or changes to it at that point of time. So this one will be just discussion.
When would the final sort of approval be from council? Do you have an estimated timeline for that?
The final approval for scope or the project?
Or the scope?
So the scope, we were thinking about returning back to council sometime in end of Q1 2024.
Yeah, the plan that shows on the website says winter 2023 hire consultants and 2024 outreach.
Yeah, we do have a new webpage that we
Right.
created for the project, so more updates will be coming on that page.
Great. And we coincidentally have a downtown committee meeting that morning. Okay, anything else, Edward? We kind of cut you off.
No, that was it. That was the last item, so I'm glad.
I have one more question. For the downtown precise plan, while it's in the, after the study session and before the final approval, is there chance, you mentioned there's a public meeting, is there a chance for public comments via the website or a way to collect feedback through any other mechanism besides the
I
meeting
think
meetings?
for public input, between these two meetings, it will just be either you come to the study session and provide your comment, or after the study session, send the email comments to the staff.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, according to the website, it says early 2025 to 26, conduct additional outreach, hold additional study sessions, draft plan, and conduct environmental review. So it looks like,
Yeah, so the studies, when we'll bring the item to the city council at the study session, we'll have a very detailed section on public outreach, because this is downtown.
Great.
So stay tuned for that, and I
Yeah.
think there'll be a lot of details in there.
Okay, great.
Great.
Yeah.
okay, yes.
People have lots of thoughts.
Right. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, and you're finished?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions from our committee? Do we have any questions from the public?
We do. I see Jasmine has her hand up, so you should be able to speak, Jasmine.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Hi. Sorry. I have those shops. What to do until they are occupied again. That's my general question. And also, is it not possible to leave the chat box, write comments or ask for you to get as many feedbacks? You don't have to answer them. This is there if you wanted to.
Jasmine, we can hear sound, but we can't understand you.
Yeah.
So, Jasmine, let me recap real quickly. I think I caught pieces of what you were asking. We don't enable chat in committee meetings. This is not a back and forth dialogue with the public. So that's why chat is not enabled in the Zoom. This is a chance for you to provide comments. I can do my best to uh, answer some questions, but public comment is really not a back and forth with the committee. So part of that is, that's why the chat's not enabled. The first part of your question was asking about vacant storefronts, but it wasn't clear, you were cutting out. So can you restate your comment again, please? Jasmine?
Were you on mute?
Well, no, my computer's on mute.
Oh,
That's,
oh, okay.
Jasmine?
I don't know what's happening. I'll try later. I'm sorry. I have to go on the other computer. This seems to be a problem with my machine. Hello?
Okay. Well. She needs to change computers?
Maybe just call in on the phone, the
Yeah.
800 number, because that's actually very stable. The old landline situation.
Yeah. Well, okay, so why don't we come back to, I can unmute, but I see there's two different Jasmines here, so let me try this again. Yeah, it's not, all right. We'll try and come back and capture the comment, maybe at the next item, but it's not allowing me to unmute now. Okay. why don't we
Okay,
move
so
forward?
I think we're completed now with item 6.1, and we'll move on to item 6.2, Castro Street update. Staff will provide a verbal update on current efforts and activities.
So, a couple things to share with the committee. First, this past Friday, we did close our small business grant, equipment grant program. We had money set aside to do 40 small grants of $5,000 for businesses to replace their outdoor furnishings. That means tables, chairs, potential heaters, small like flower pots, basically things to help beautify or replace some aged equipment. We received 27 applications. 25 of those were for downtown establishments. Going to temporarily hold on opening it back up. Want to go through the review and get these issued, as we had a window to apply, and make sure those that are applied we can fund, and then whatever is left over, we'll reopen up that process. But this was done in conjunction with the timing of the patio license. So I'm going to transition to the second topic. So we asked businesses by September 15th to submit patio license applications to the city. Basically, November 1st, we're moving to this patio license program versus what you currently see out on the street, which was a vendor participation agreement. Effectively, the vendor participation agreement was the COVID-19 response that allowed businesses to operate on the street. The patio license is now a formalized agreement. Businesses will be paying rent for that space. We will be defining the space with barriers that the city is providing to those businesses. And if you're going to bleed over into space in front of your neighbor, you actually have to get their permission. You just can't do it. So a lot of different things are changing. Staff is currently working through all those applications right now, making sure all the insurance is in place, all the documents are in place to actually execute these agreements. Based upon this initial tranche, we have put in an initial order for the fencing, the patio barriers. And so basically those that were in as of September 15th will be in a better shape to actually build their patios come November. For those that are coming in after September 15th, we really can't guarantee we're gonna have the barriers in place to do that. At the last meeting, I shared with everyone, we were going to be doing what we call office hours in the street. This is a chance for staff to actually talk with businesses. We did that on September 6th, advising the downtown businesses of the slurry project that's moving forward, some of the sewer work that you've heard here in this committee, as well as reminding them about the patio license application and the grant funding. So that was our big push in addition to providing information out to everyone. And then the last thing I wanted to share, for those of you inside the room, I do have a black and white sheet if you didn't get it. This is a little vacancy report I did for Castro Street. I wanted to walk through this with folks. So I'm gonna share the screen real quickly so people online can see this as well. So basically, this is a block by block breakdown of what's vacant that has a permit that's tied to it, or what's vacant but not a ground floor vacancy. So in the 100 block, what you're seeing is basically, minimize this. Basically two vacancies, and we have, this should have been two non-ground floor vacancies. And then we have basically two permits as Edgar has in his report for 171, 175 Castro. So really fairly low vacancy in the 100 block of Castro. As we get into the 200 block, we have 8 ground floor vacancies, 7 non-ground floor vacancies, and one of those has an active permit on it. And one is actually going through a change of ownership. So on the screen, you'll see 2 elements in blue. These are kind of the changes since last month. So 240 Castro Street, this is not in Edgar's report because it's just a building permit, but they should be opening up a new restaurant here very soon. They're wrapping up those tenant improvements, so that building should be active fairly soon. So that one should remove the ground floor vacancy and the change of use. Unfortunately, this past weekend, Beyond Threads closed, vacated the building. It was the little clothing boutique. They left over the weekend, so they are no longer here.
Oh, that's too bad. That was her dream to have a little boutique.
Yeah, so very unfortunate. In the 300 block, we have 5 ground floor vacancies, 2 that have or 2 non-ground floor, 1 with an active permit. This is the Architect building, once again referenced in Edgar's report you heard earlier. In the 400 block, we have 2 ground floor vacancies and 7 non-ground floor. So if you're not familiar, behind Casa Lupe, there's several smaller buildings. So what you see is those are 453, 455, 457. All of those are vacant. They all have Castro addresses. So while they're not technically on the street, facing the street, they all have Castro Street addresses. The 471 does face the street, and it was a dental office that relocated to California Street. So that's actually where we have some significant vacancy. The 500 block, you know, the Wells Fargo project is a development project, so, and then Sobrato does have vacancy in their building, with changes to Pure Storage. 600 block, really it's office vacancy that exists there. It's not the ground floor per se. 600 block, 600 block is 4 non-ground floor. 700 block, we don't have any vacancy. 800 block, we do have 1 vacancy. It's a very small storefront, 817 Castro. And the 900 block, no vacancy. So what you see there is, in terms of ground floor, 19 ground floor vacancies, 22 non, 5 that have development permits or working through a process to fill space. We do have 1 change of ownership. So when you basically take the 19 and you subtract the 5 and the 1, so that leaves basically 13 ground floor spaces that really have no activity on them. That's how that nets out. So that's a quick update on vacancies.
Question
Yes.
on Tap Plastics at 312. In parentheses, it says Cypress Investment. You're just using Tap Plastics as the most recent.
Yes, that's correct.
So we know which building we're
Yes.
discussing.
Now, on that topic, real quick, what is the, is there an applicant for that space?
There had been an applicant. The applicant withdrew their application.
So the owner, I guess, from the Plastics, made a huge scene on Castro, where he was berating one of the waitresses from the next door because of the tables in front of him, and like he was accusing the city of not doing anything or like blocking him or something like that. So that's why I wanted to see what is the current status of anything there. Is there?
So he has reached out to the city. The city asked Grapevine to shrink its footprint because it had bled over in front of his business. And he'd asked several times that we get a hold of Grapevine. Reached out to Grapevine numerous times, asking them to reduce their footprint. They would not. He took it upon himself to engage the business owner. He has been very vocal that when tenants have come to look at his space, there's a disconnect with what's going on in front of this store, and so he wants it to help better market the building. So
He fears that the tables are kind of blocking the frontage of his, okay, understandable.
So yes, he did have a prospective tenant. They were going through a process, and they ended up walking away from the deal.
And as far as, let's say, Grapevine, now that we're gonna have the new sidewalk permits, where are you gonna allow them to have their tables outside?
So they can have tables in front of their establishment. If Mongolian Barbecue wants to allow them to bleed in front of them, they can do so. But that means Mongolian needs to provide permission. It's an interesting building because it's 1 building, 2 tenants. So, you know, that's something they have to work out amongst each other.
Can, let's say Mongolian Barbecue, can they enter into an agreement with Grapevine that's financial? Let's say, we'll let you use the space, I mean, because they don't own it. It's the city's property, not their property. No, the streets.
I'm saying if, let's say, if Mongolian Barbecue says we're not gonna pay rent for that space, then Grapevine has all the rights to rent it from the city, right?
Well, that's what, I don't know that.
So
If they say, no, I don't want you in front of our place, then
Yeah. Oh, you mean
the
like,
city won't let Grapevine bleed over. But my question is, could Grapevine sort of sell the right to use the space in front of their office to Grapevine for
So-
money?
So,
Blackmailing them.
okay.
No, I mean, it's like, they don't own the land, but they own the right.
So the first and foremost, the neighboring or adjacent property or business needs to give permission. That permission is revocable after a year. Because maybe you have a vacant building and you don't care if someone's in front. But if you get a tenant and now that tenant wants that space. So when you forego that right, you forego it for a year because we're basically gonna say, all right, you're paying a year's worth of rent for that space and now that person gets to use it for that year. If you decide at the end of the year, that as the neighboring business or building, I've got a new tenant, I want to reclaim that space, you could do that at that time. If 6 months later, you get a new tenant, and we're not gonna break that agreement. You get it for the year. To your point, what happens between neighbors is between neighbors, and we don't wanna know what's going on between neighbors. All we care about is you get permission to do this, so.
Not only do we actually don't care what goes on between neighbors. There's a difference between not knowing and not caring.
What if the property owner is not here to give consent? So for example, Old China Delight, really out of communications, can the city legally, without permission, rent out that space to another restaurant to use? given
I
that
don't
it's
think we
fenced?
wanna get into
Okay.
that yes, I mean, people should make good faith efforts to get a hold of the property owner, but if we don't have it, we're not gonna, well, okay, we'll let this
Got it.
pass, right?
Thank you.
So-
It was answered in the discussion, thanks.
So yeah, once again, the model for why we're doing the patio licenses the way we are is we are trying to make it a little more equitable because one, those individuals that had the original parklet going 20 years back, had the parklets, they had basically first right to the street. And that was the case in COVID, and then everyone kind of got the leftovers, if you will.
Wild West.
And so we have these very weird footprints, and so this is one gonna help with a little more of, not uniformity, I'll say more consistency along the street, especially as we define the pedestrian path in the middle, so it won't meander, it'll be just straight down. But it does allow for people to work together, and at the end of the day, I think it makes for a better thing instead of having people kind of competing for space and arguing over space. So ironically, what we were hearing from businesses, oh yeah, I'll work with so-and-so, but what they actually applied for was just their space. So all the talk didn't result in actually people figuring out, because if blocks of businesses work together, they can actually maximize their space for everyone if they work together, but they're not doing that. So,
And the city charges by the square foot, right? Yeah. Okay.
Is there a city mediator to kind of help neighbors get along?
But there are mediators
In general.
in general. I mean, people can hire a mediator.
I had a question about the fencing. You mentioned the folks who apply for the permit first get their fencing first, which is great. But the people who didn't apply will not get their fencing, but wouldn't the loose fencing be there to their benefit in a way, right? If they were to take advantage of the loose fencing situation?
well, I understand the question, but we're not gonna allow them to go on the street
Okay,
until that
fencing
area is
happens.
defined.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, so like you can have both your neighbors with a box and, well, clearly this is my box, right? But we're not gonna allow that. So, and part of the barriers solve two things for most of the restaurants is it's ABC requirement.
Got it.
So you have to define space.
Got it, thank you.
Jen? Oh, sorry.
Who is responsible for enforcing this?
Exactly.
Like, what city body,
Is it PD?
Yeah.
Cause it's a
So
toughie.
these agreements are through our Public Works division. And so it's going to be, I think, a little bit of a combination between Public Works and Public Development. So the other thing you know, there's the real estate aspect of, you know, leasing basically property. There's also just, once again, not having broken heaters in, you know, things that look shabby, you know, like, there is an intention to come back with a better tool. And so there's not only the enforcement of actual space, but it's, we don't want to micromanage what's in the space, but if your heaters are all broken, they can't be on the street. We're gonna say, it comes off, and it's your
And is
responsibility.
that gonna be a little more assertive in the beginning and then, okay, thanks.
So,
Go ahead, Mike.
so, and just to be clear, so, let's say Tap Plastics, they don't want to do a street license because they don't want to pay the rent to do that, but they don't want anybody there. Do they have the right to say, I'm not going to give you permission to be in front of my, I'm not going to give anybody permission to use any of my space. I want clear space in front of my store. And so that is still possible, okay.
So that's sort of the default, is
Right.
the space in front of your store is not populated by.
Right. No poaching.
Jamil?
So if a owner rent a space in front of the store, do they still, the insurance carry that? Not the city.
So the city's insurance or their own
No, it's
insurance?
Private insurance.
And they have to show proof of insurance or
Oh, yeah.
provider on their insurance.
One thing the city does is indemnity and insurance.
So I'm gonna pause, Aruna, since Aruna's been very active in this, is there anything you want to add to this?
I just wanted to add just one comment to your point that if Tap Plastics does not want to allow a neighborhood business to expand, that's a requirement if somebody wants to expand, but city can activate that space with social seating, social equipment or gaming. So city always has the first right to the space. So that's all that makes sense.
So if the city wants to put a beanbag throw thing in front of the space, they can.
And you see that currently out on the street today, right? Where the social eddies exist are generally in front of spaces that are less activated and or vacant.
Any other questions or comments? Do you have any questions from the public?
Jasmine, your hand is up and you're unmuted. You can talk.
Oh, thank you. I hope this is working now.
Yes.
Can you
We can hear
confirm?
you.
Excellent. Sorry about the technical issue earlier. I really was addressing the vacancy on Castro and asking if there are any plans for any sort of pop-up, especially between now and New Year, not to have those storefronts closed up. Thank you.
So I'll just quickly address that. So we are working on an economic vitality strategy. We do have some recommendations to do some activations, further activations in downtown. And we are looking to do some programming of spaces in downtown. Whether that happens before the end of the year or not, I cannot answer that, but we are developing some programs to help that. We also have a facade program to help some of the property owners improve their space and make it more appealing as well. So there are plans to move forward with those kinds of things. Okay. Anybody else in the public have questions, comments?
It's not directly related, but I'm wondering, in terms of the vacancies, is it a situation where the space is available, just nobody is biting? Or is it a situation where the property owners are simply not responsive, as, Old China Delight, for example?
There's a combination of things there. There are property owners that are actively marketing their spaces, and some are getting bites. And when when it comes to seeking permits, there's a cost involved in that. And keep in mind, in most retail cases, restaurants or retail, all the tenant improvement costs are on the business. Very infrequently do property owners carry any of that cost. So if you're looking to go into a vacant space and you need to improve it, that's another cost before you're even selling goods. That's another cost before you even get permits. So, a lot of times it's that shock of, oh, I just can't go in and operate. So that is part of the problem. There are a handful of properties as I can flag on this list, that aren't being marketed. Well, the space is available to rent. And that is, I think, where bigger problems exist.
Sure.
When people are at least actively marketing their space, there's the potential for opportunity. When you're not actively marketing your space, makes it much more challenging. And so one further update I would provide is we did, in an attempt to address some of the vacancies, working with my colleague Kathy, we arranged to do a property owner meeting in early September. We reached out to 15 property owners in downtown. We had a lot of email, calling to arrange a meeting. Out of the 15, only 4 RSVP'd to the meeting. Only 3 showed up. This is pretty emblematic of what happens with engaging property owners.
And
Do you mean just in Mountain View or
In downtown Mountain.
in downtown Mountain View?
My curiosity is, let's say China Delight, right? It's been like that ever since I moved here. How do we even know the owner's alive?
They're in Taiwan or China or somewhere, right?
Are they alive? I mean, like,
That building is also a real problem.
Yeah.
Because it's unreinforced masonry and it can't be used, if I am correct, if I recall correctly, without millions of dollars of repairs.
it would be better to tear it down. And as a result of this is why city council is exploring the idea of a vacancy tax or whatever.
Or other programs to
So
solve.
they're right.
John, I had one more question. You had mentioned earlier that there's all these grants now for owners, restaurants, et cetera, for patio furniture, et cetera. I'm wondering if some of that grant can be offered to new renters to offset the shock and awe of, upgrading a property, et cetera, to make it rentable.
So that is actually one of the findings that came out of the draft strategy. Right now, the money is kind of allocated in those buckets. We may want to rethink how that's allocated if we're not able to expend it in the way we envision. That could certainly be a way of re-envisioning that to help support some of those tenant improvements.
Well, I can tell you, having owned a building and leased other buildings, $5,000 is barely enough to install
Yeah.
your phone system, much
But
less.
it's better than $0.
what about, is Nick the Greek still in the game or no?
Still has an active permit. There is a challenge with the sewer for that particular property.
Talk
The
about-
prior tenant had tapped into the neighboring sewer line, which was
Oh my gosh.
correct.
Is that like Nancy G's sewer? Is this
Well,
like an Omar Lee, Nancy G?
It was, it tapped into the, anyways. there
It's a
was-
problem.
Yes, so that's the issue with that they're trying, they've been working to resolve.
And
I have one more question about the sort of vacant properties, like, as we're talking about more aggressive enforcement of the sort of patio things, like, has the city aggressively enforced any sort of codes that might be applicable to the vacant properties as a way?
but you're not required by code to keep your building up. You can have it unless you have a tenant or there's some other.
But are there other violations that
Right,
the
is there-
city
Yeah.
could be enforcing?
If you start looking very carefully, there's gotta be something.
All the buildings have been inspected for life safety issues, and if there is a life safety issue, it does need to be addressed, but all the vacant properties that we discussed have been inspected.
But if they're empty, they can be empty indefinitely, right? Until
Right.
the city.
That's not a code violation.
Correct.
Evidently.
It's like a tax on vacancy.
Correct, but until we get to that point, it's.
Well, I'm saying, let's say Nancy G, I talked to her, she's, she has quite a few buildings that are empty and she's clearly opposed to the tax. But I'm thinking that as long as landlord is actively posting,
Sure.
advertising their space, there should not be tax for a period of time.
That's being figured out right now by the consultant.
Yeah, and there you go. I guess we don't think alike, right?
Okay, so do we have anything else to discuss on this?
Always a fun one, this one.
We need some pixie dust or something to
Something.
move things along. Okay, if there's no more comments on this, we'll move on to 6.3, downtown committee meeting time. We will revisit the prior discussion on changing the meeting time for the downtown committee that was tabled on September 5th downtown committee meeting. Discussion will be whether to maintain or change the start date of the first Tuesday of the month downtown committee meeting. So, do we have any kind of a history report, or are we just going to launch in?
At this point, I think it's launch in. The committee seemed to be impasse as to make it day, night, make it a different day. I think where the consensus after hearing the meeting again was, it's Tuesday, it's going to stay on Tuesday. The question is, does it stay in the morning? And if so, what does that look like? Or if it does go to the evening? So maybe the first question to ask is, is there any interest in exploring any type of evening situation? That's off the table. And what does that look like for morning?
Well, I'll go ahead and speak. Tuesday, usually, sometimes city council meets on that same day. A lot of times it doesn't on that same day, so I think that would not be, and even if we said 5 o'clock, a lot of times there's study sessions, not that they're private study sessions, private sessions usually at 5 or 5:30, but occasionally there are meetings at 5 with the public. So, but I will not make any more comment, Mike.
I mean, I'm personally fine with the way we're doing it. I mean, we used to do it earlier, which arguably is easier on businesses, but I didn't hear a lot of people saying that's what they'd like. But I mean, I would say either 10 or 8. At least for 10, I mean, everybody that applied knew when we met. So, I mean,
Yeah.
everybody that's here knew what the ground rules were, so.
So, go ahead, Ann.
So yeah, I would propose moving it to 8 because although this current cohort of people did agree to 10, we'll have to replace ourselves eventually. And I think that might be problematic because just for most people doing it in the middle of the workday or school day or whatever is not the optimal time to do it. So I would propose moving it to 8.
And that's your me and just.
So what about a compromise, and I'm not necessarily saying it's a good idea or not, do it at 9. Does that make it any easier for working folk, or is it equally a challenge?
I think it might make it easier for commuters, but I mean, working, it's probably easier to come here first rather than go to work and then come here.
If you work someplace else, like David and.
I'm with it, I would also prefer 8. Pardon?
Yeah.
I would also prefer 8 as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would do 8 or 9.
Just
personally.
raising
It
opportunities.
was
and-
Solomonic. It was a Solomonic,
Yeah.
like King Solomon, dividing,
Yes,
splitting it in
that's
the
right,
middle
that's
there.
right.
That's right.
I can do 8, 9, or 10.
I'm agnostic, it doesn't matter to
Yeah.
me. We want to make it viable for those.
We move to 8. And I can't remember if that's at the new year, if we can start doing that immediately based on notice requirements and blah, blah, blah.
We could change it starting in November, moving revert back to 8, because that's where it was prior to the pandemic.
I will second.
Okay, well, let's break it into two different segments. So all those in favor of having
we
the
gotta have
meeting start at
public input
8.
first.
We need public input, but
So
what I was going to
They join
suggest is that we decide whether we start with a November meeting as a separate decision or whether we start after the first of the year as a separate decision. So do we have any comments from the public?
I'm not seeing any raised hands.
Okay, so how many people want to have it be two different decisions? That start at 8 and then we have a separate decision about when we start meeting? Or do we want to roll it into
So,
one?
I would maybe pause here. There's a motion just to change the time.
Right.
So,
What,
so.
under whatever
so-
circumstances
That's what I was trying
necessary.
to clarify.
So maybe take action on
Right.
time,
Yeah, that's
and
what I wanted to
then
clarify.
you can then pose the question or do a straw vote on whether you want to do that immediately or,
Okay, so Mike has a motion that we move the meeting to 8 AM.
and then Mary seconded
Mary
it, right?
seconded. Okay,
Okay.
so can we?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Crawl, I guess.
All right,
I'll bring you coffee, I'll bring
all
you.
right, so
And Moni's
to
not here.
the earlier, point, the question is, are people amenable to starting this with a November meeting as a change, or there's basically 2 more meetings, November, December, wait till the beginning of the year,
We don't
No
meet in
difference.
January.
and you won't meet January.
So, yeah, so February,
No difference.
I'm agnostic, so.
Doesn't matter, so
Move forward with.
somebody make a motion one way or the other.
Motion to start meeting 8 AM starting November.
Second.
Okay, can
Anybody
I?
online wishing to make a comment on the start,
Start
the effectiveness of this change starting in November? Seen any hands? Okay.
I see a show of hands to start in November. All those in favor? Okay.
One comment for John, we don't want to add anything else. Could you make sure in November, remind everybody one more time, it's an 8, because we'll show up at 10 otherwise.
Yeah, yeah.
I will need to update all the calendars and what have you, so you should get it probably a couple times.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I would say set a separate one, like Monday morning. Okay, great. Thank you. So, new business, 7.1, Center for the Performing Arts Discussion on Downtown Integration. Staff will provide a verbal update on activities of the Center for Performing Arts and discuss how better to integrate the CPA into the downtown environment.
So I would like to introduce Lisa Yvonne, the Executive Director of the Center for Performing Arts, joins us today. I will let Teresa take it from here and share with you what's going on at the CPA and what are the opportunities, I think, further engage downtown.
You can perform, right? She's gonna sing and dance.
This was the performer.
Right.
Live well, Miranda.
Well, thank you for having me here. I've been here a year, actually. I'm shocked. It's gone by really fast. Just a little background. I'm a California native. Most recently, though, I spent 5.5 years in Washington State. I opened a new facility in Federal Way, Washington, 64,000 square foot performing arts and event center. Second new construction project that I've done. And now I'm here at the Center for the Performing Arts, and it's kind of a new day. So there's just a lot of changes that I'm making and just kind of opening it up. But one of the things that's become very clear to me, because I actually live within walking distance and walk back and forth, is that what's happening downtown isn't exactly happening in my lobby. I have 2 different populations. It's like, oh, I have my population in my lobby, and then there's this really diverse population downtown.
And it might be a few years.
Yeah.
Decades.
I was trying to, I was gonna leave,
Demographics.
I was leaving that one out a little bit. But so there's just, I'm trying to stir the pot, so to speak. I just really kind of want to make that connection to the downtown. I think there's a lot of people, new folks, younger folks coming downtown, and I need to create the skittle trail, as I like to call it, to get them up to the plaza and in the doors. And then I do have certain shows that, we've had just in the short time that I've been here. Teatro Noel is coming up this month, actually. That's all in Spanish, so we'll see how they do. I'm very pleased to see like what the reaction and response is for that. Earlier this year, we had Fayou Theater. They're in Mandarin. They did 2 shows with us, one in January and one in March. I'm going off another year. January was very well attended. The March was sold out. Did very well. So it's things like that they're wanting to come back and use this again, yay. So I'm just excited to make that connection. I really wanted to come and talk to this group. My Performing Arts Committee is also open to making some changes. And one of their work plan items was to coordinate with the Visual Arts Committee and the Downtown Committee, and what can the 3 committees possibly do together to just bring some light to everything that's going on downtown and make the connections between what's going on at CPA. And the Visual Arts Committee uses our walls as a gallery. In fact, there's a new artist going up today, literally as we speak. So, and we've expanded our hours over there. We used to have like 1 hour, a couple of days a week kind of thing. So it's Wednesday through Saturday, noon to 3. The gallery is open for viewing. So that's one of the things that I wanted to highlight today to let you guys know about that. And then I've had conversations with the PAC, and John and I have had conversations about when we have these artists come and do hang, to having a gallery reception, and maybe the downtown committee, all the committees host that. We invite people to come, whether it's downtown businesses, whatever. So I'm dropping that seed with this group. I think that could be something that could become hopefully like a regular thing. We might have to start with one.
You could collaborate with the chamber and the Downtown Business Association.
Yeah. So the goal is, let's start with something, and then we can grow this into something a little bit more. The other thing with the Visual Arts Committee, I've already released the second floor walls, so to speak. We were very tight on not allowing any kind of artwork up on the second floor, and I was like, why not? We have an elevator, there's stairs.
Those images have been there on those walls for.
Yeah.
So I could tell you probably where each one.
Very valuable now.
Well, those are coming down. We have a nice hallway in the back for them. They'll be fine. And then the whole, I hope is to expand that also. So I just kind of want to let you guys know that, if there's anything that you guys think of that you need a partner with for downtown, or something going on, or you think of an idea, we're open to everything right now.
I have 4.
Okay?
Item number 1, comedy shows.
Yes.
I think after the pandemic, a lot of people are not interested in seeing stuff that's really dark or whatever because they were really depressed. So comedy shows seems to be selling out everywhere. So 1. 2, I think this space, it's really the lobby could be a really great space for community gathering. And I thought about this for a long time actually, because I always, whenever I walk by, I'm like, why don't we use this space more? So for example, the nights when we have the concerts, right? Literally the people just go in to use the bathroom and then leave. Like why, it should be more of an opening, inviting space.
I'm gonna answer both of those.
Okay.
There's
Do
reasons.
you want me to finish?
No, there's reasons. Go ahead.
Okay. 3, Pamela last year did a costume empty storefront thing. And I think that was really well received, except Downtown Committee has no money. I'm just gonna say this until I die, is that I would like some money, for us, not for me, but to do things like this, because it was so creative and people loved it and it was really well received, but we have no money. That is visual arts. And then 4 is freebie space. So when I was part of a dance troupe, and I know there's a lot of these
What was it?
freebie space. So when I was part of a dance troupe for a group as small and amateur as ours, it was very difficult to rent a stage to do a show because the stage are prohibitively expensive.
Mhm.
And so, and I know there's lots of community groups such as ours back, and I'm just wondering if there's any kind of sort of grant or whatever application process where community groups who don't have the money to rent out a real stage can get use of a stage to do something that's fun and just for a couple days, right? Like in our case, it's a weekend. Or even school productions, for example. Our elementary school does a shockingly amazing like holiday production, and they do it in a gym, and it's packed in, right? And I can imagine if it's at the CPA, for example, right, it would be very well received, and it would be one night, right? It would be like literally one day in December that they would get the space, but they would have to pay the rent. So that's, anyway, that's it, I'm done.
Okay, so comedy shows. I am gonna say we did have a comedy series that was going on. They actually outgrew us and moved on to urban space. But I'm also going to make sure that everybody understands we're a rental facility.
Yeah.
So it's pay or play.
Yeah.
I do not choose the groups that come.
Yep.
I do not it's called presenting in the industry. We're just strictly a four wall. You rent
don't-
four walls.
You don't create art.
I don't curate anything.
And you don't create productions.
We're not, that's producing, we don't do any producing, we don't do any presenting, it's
What's the
strictly
capacity of
four-wall renting. What?
What's the capacity, seating capacity?
The main stage is 600,
Yeah.
and the second stage is 150 to 200, depending on how you configure it. But I don't disagree with you on the comedians, but I don't have that kind of latitude. So the lobby, here's one of the things that I need everybody to understand. So when you're talking about what's going on out for summer concerts, I have Smune Ballet that has a show that starts at 7:30. So I can't have my lobby run over, and I actually requested this year for summer concerts that you do not, it's shut down, you use city hall restrooms for the summer concerts. Because what happens is I have someone who paid to use my space and then love our facility, but the one thing we didn't do was the women's restrooms. What we got, like 4 stalls when we should have 25. And it gets run over, and then, of course, my clients' patrons come in, and the bathroom's been run over by, free concerts out on the front porch.
I get it.
Love the front porch, love the summer concerts, I don't have a problem with that, but I'm very respectful of, these folks have paid to use the inside of the facility. So typically what I always say, because I also get a lot, why don't you do anything on Tuesdays? Okay, if there's nothing going on at the front of the building, go around to the loading dock. Because they have to load in on Monday and rehearse Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to have a show go up for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So if there's nothing going on at the front, it doesn't mean that we're not busy. There's just a lot going on at the back. The costume storefront's a great idea. I would love to. I think we could do that with the home companies, with Theater Works and PYT and Upstage, all of them have
Yes.
costumes and
Yes.
stuff. That could be really fun.
Yes.
Free space. We don't really have a, how do I want to call it, free program for everything. For the second stage, my Performing Arts Committee actually has, they call it, right now it's called a second stage fee waiver. It's on hold only because, well, we put it on hold just because it wasn't well advertised. It was kind of one of these, if you called to rent the facility and you'd never rented before, then we offered to give you a fee waiver. That's not really a fee waiver because they're already calling to rent. A fee waiver needs to be like, we're gonna take 10 applicants, we're gonna allow, it needs to be more like, you apply for it, you get graded, you score well, you get a fee waiver. So we do have a free program for the second stage because it's utilized a little less than the main stage. What I will say is we came out of the pandemic with a vengeance. I just did my 22-23 numbers, and we are back to 2019 numbers. So it's fabulous. The rentals are up, the usage is up, but I will say that our clients are still struggling because the audiences are not back. They came back and they're renting us, so we're busy, but their audiences are still at 60%, 65%. They're not where they used to be. We're industry-wide, everybody's about 30% down. So if you were at 90%, you're now at 60. If you were doing really well and you were at 85%, you're down in the, 55, 60%, which is rough.
Yeah.
I was just curious, it's not part of this because it's been on the books for a long time, but, you know, there have been plans and proposals to expand, you know, like the green room,
The second
practice
stage.
space, the second stage, redo the outdoor stage area so that there's more available. What's the overall status
That's
of
part
some
of the reason why I'm here. That CIP has set for 5 years now.
at least?
So, it's underfunded, to be really
Right,
frank, at
right.
this point, it's underfunded. I met with David Printy, I actually made some changes to the plans, cause there were some things that, and I'll just be really frank with the group. The second stage was slated to have permanent seating. There's nothing wrong with having a black box that you can empty out and rearrange. The problem is that the equipment, our chairs and our risers that we have in there right now are 30 years old. So they're really heavy and really old and sturdy and lasted a long time, which is fabulous. But it also means it's 4 guys in 6 hours to tear that all down, which then my clients have to pay for, which they don't want to do that. So it never gets changed. So one of the things that I did was just got rid of that. We're just gonna buy new risers and new chairs that will be lighter and, because everything's just
Right.
better.
They
It's
used
just,
to do like music, dinner theater in
Oh,
there. It was
yeah.
really cool.
we could do jazz cabaret, we could do, there's all kinds of things. We could have, yeah.
Comedy show with Mary.
Funny, huh?
A
So
comedy.
we have some
Go for
questions.
it. I love
So
comedy.
Anne and then Kira and then me.
I was just gonna suggest, I don't know how you do this, given that you're not producing, but the Center for the Performing Arts doesn't have a really high profile in the sort of like events of the city. Like there's just a way, like, why not, rather than reinventing the wheel, like attach yourself to some of the city events in whatever way, whether it's the festivals, whether it's the concerts, whether you have, I don't know, strolling minstrels or, you know, somebody from your home companies or even a booth to talk about what the performing arts is. But it strikes me that a lot of the, you know, the fire department's out there, the, a lot of the sort of, the Chamber of Commerce is out there handing out, you know, bottles. The Center for the Performing Arts is not, and I'm sure, you know, you don't have lots of extra budget or people, but that's a really, it takes less of it in that sort of way than it does in other things. So I don't know
Yeah.
to what degree that you're able to do that, but I think that would be helpful.
I'm kind of piggybacking off what Ann just said. So I don't think we met, I do head the Downtown Business Association and also the Chamber, so we should probably talk offline about a lot that we can do.
Love that, yeah.
But one of the things that I'm thinking is how to partner with businesses. One thing is it was Lizard Boy was a production that we did in the window, and one thing I remember is we had a big QR code, and I saw 5 different people take that QR code and go, oh, this looks cool,
Yep.
and then go buy tickets,
Yes.
you know, off the thing, and so it does make a difference to have it up though. That's just like anecdotal of me walking down the street. So that's one thing, and the other is maybe we can discuss ways to partner with businesses in a way that, you know, maybe there can be an offer or something when they go in, and then, you know, at the same time, those businesses that do that, do something to let their patrons know that they should go over here, and that way you can reach a different demographic. So it's something that we can certainly explore and discuss in terms of ways we can get you out downtown. That's with the downtown hat, with the chamber hat. There's also a lot we can do to help
Love that.
get you out there, so we should talk.
Yeah. And I'm gonna piggyback also on what Ann said about, next spring will be the multicultural festival that's held every other year.
Yep.
And there were some dance troupes on the stage out in the plaza. Maybe if the timing is right, you could have those at the second stage and have people go indoors and watch the performances there. Again, you'd have to look at the timing and all that, but.
I think the multicultural festival this year's been moved to the community center.
Oh.
See, one of the things you have to realize is like you say, like we just use the second stage, it's not available.
Yeah, well, that's
So,
why.
yeah, it's like, that's the tricky wicket for us. It's like, there's a lot of things that, you know, we could potentially do, but then, you know, right now, my directive is that it's rented as much as possible. What I will tell you is, last year, when I got here, the requests for dates are due in November. When I got done puzzling all the folks, I had 4 dates left for the
That
main
was
stage
my
for the entire year.
That was my question. So how many nights is second stage and the main stage open?
The main stage is not open. If it is open, I block it down for maintenance. If I have any
So
days,
basically you're booked.
I'm booked, and I will be again come November. So we book from October to the following September. So this November, I'll get all the requests, and by the time I'm done puzzling that. And then there's always some folks that fall out, unfortunately, and I don't blame them. This is the struggle that we have. So I have home companies, so TheaterWorks is loading in right now. They're there for 6 weeks. So then I have someone who requests a February date, I'm just making this up. But I have TheaterWorks in there for 6 weeks, so you can't have February. So then I'm giving you either the early part of January or late part of March. That's nowhere near the date that you were asking for. And so then they're like, I don't want those dates. Your January's too soon, February's too far. It's whatever they've got going on, that doesn't work. And then I lose folks. So one of the sticky wickets that I'm trying to figure out, honestly, is because the way that this has been put together now is if you have tenure, so to speak, then you get higher choice than if you're a new request. The problem is that the new requests just don't ever get in. The way that it's tiered right now, it's next to impossible. So when you talk about a grant program, it's almost less about the money, and I would like to put together like a grant program or whatever that gives you an opportunity to come in and play as if you're a tenured applicant, so that you can actually get your foot in the door. Because right now, it's like the new folks are they just go in a different pile, and it's so sad because that's where the variety in some of that will come
10
in.
years ago, we spent like a whole night just on booking the Performing Arts Center.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
So one more
Yeah.
point. There have been community presentations or events. Joe Seminium held a couple of events, which were very well attended.
Yeah, he's here tomorrow night.
And so I would certainly encourage you to consider making those dates available. Kepler's Books is hosting Ann Richardson Cox. She's got a brand new book out. And that's this Thursday, and originally it was going to be at their facility, and it sold out in 3 seconds. So they moved over to Smithwick Theater over at Foothill, and that's sold out. And I think that's about 500 seats.
They're 800, they're much larger than us.
So, do we ever encourage or look at authors on book tours or anything like that? Or
Again, we're a rental facility. I don't look at anybody. You apply and we accept your application.
They
But
look
do you
at
not
us.
market to a certain
exactly.
type of, like,
So-
agent? Because
so-
if you're talking about
No,
changing the mix of who's
well,
coming in,
I was about to say that too.
I would how do I say this? Again, having new folks be able to get in will help change that mix.
right,
Right now, there is no marketing of the facility because I'm just right now trying to get a handle on like how
right.
we can potentially, because when how do I say this? If when I got done puzzling last year, I had dates available, I probably would have made that a higher priority. But what happened last year is I get done and I have no dates available. So
Right.
I can't market to anybody if I don't have dates. to give.
May I suggest, Terry?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I come from Dubrovnik, right? And we have a small theater in Old Town. And what they do to market to, young and new crowd, there's, like a street, it's a much more beautiful street, but it's like a street Castro, right? So what they do, they take their couple of employees or 3 employees, and they walk down that street. And every maybe 100 yards, they stop and they do a little play. They like do a little dialogue, a little louder so they attract, and they're dressed in costume, right? So it's nuts, right? They always gather a little, and then they just stop and continue walking like nothing happened, And then again, they stop and like, they do these little dialogues, and it's just like the most attractive marketing idea I've ever seen for a theater, to be honest, because it's live, and then you introduce it to a younger crowd that has never even seen an inside of a theater. And like it worked, and it still works. So maybe down Castro Street, get a couple of
Minstrels.
I'm not sure what.
I was just gonna say thanks for being here and sitting through the whole meeting.
Right.
And that was great, but the segue, what Kira was saying here, You said the gallery is open certain weeks of the month, I mean, of the.
So now it's open Wednesday through Saturday, 12 to 3 are our new hours.
So anybody can walk in, and so you had a marquee out there.
Mhm.
Do we advertise on the marquee that's open?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
And then the last update that I have is the banners that are downtown that are really quite old. We have a new set coming, and there's a sample set if you want to look at it. It's directly across the street on Castro. If you walk out from City Hall and go directly across, you'll see it. It's a photograph and a word, and it has our website. And I have a whole series of them with different artists and different words that'll be going up downtown. So it's like one of the first things, my Skittle Trail, as I call it.
Right, so what you're looking for input from the committee on is building audience.
That's right.
Like, so you don't,
You don't need
right,
tents.
does that summarize what you are the sort of, for lack of a better word, issue or problem you're trying to solve? You're trying to diversify or build or expand the audience for these events?
Yes, because right now, that's the biggest problem with my troops that are coming, is their audience. Their original audience pre-pandemic is not all coming back. So we're gonna have to find new folks that are gonna be willing to come. And
So, right, so what you're first trying to do is bring a new audience to the same shows. And then if that doesn't work, then you're also tinkering with how to get more new shows in and.
And then the other reason was to plant the seed for my committee, so that we could do something
Is
together.
marketing mostly the production's responsibility though, like marketing for a specific show? I mean, we have sort of like generic, we have this great facility, come and enjoy the theater.
We
but-
have a preview magazine that goes out. We have a rack card. We have like the typical
Right.
noises kind of thing. One of the shifts that I'm making though is that we have not been big on social media, which back to different demographics, we have not been we haven't been very robust on that.
Right.
So I'm actually hiring, so if anybody knows it's getting ready to be posted, I'm gonna hire a marketing assistant. I just need some college student that wants to work like 15 hours a week and come in and rock the social media. Because, we've done a little, is probably the
Right.
best way to say it. And we haven't really
Right.
like tapped into that. Because the print is, nobody does print anymore. It's a QR code. It's like, nobody does that anymore. We have enough of that older demographic that I can't completely just throw it out. I need to do something, but I'm minimizing that. Is the goal this next year.
Palo Alto Players has done great efforts. If you take a look at their social media, they posted, groups in rehearsal, costumes, and
Which one?
I think at Palo Alto Players, I've seen
Mhm.
great social media stuff from them. Like, here, the costumes have arrived today, and, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and then I have group, like Upstage is one of our home companies, and it's so funny, they don't even do Facebook. It's like their director does Facebook, just so that the parents know what's going on. But they're all TikTok videos, they're Instagram, they're kids. These are all high school kids,
I love
so,
it.
they're like, Facebook, who's that? That's for old people.
So do you have anything else,
No,
Teresa?
that's it.
Do we have any comments from the public?
Jasmine, you should be able.
Hi, yes, thank you. I have two comments and suggestion and question. They're all integrated. First, about the performing arts and the challenges. Have you ever considered applying for grants? You refer to we're a rental space. At the same time, there is a need for getting more diverse group in there. So perhaps that would be the opportunity to apply for grants so you can support diverse groups and new talent and all the other things people suggested. That's one comment. The other one was, again, the vacant storefronts are opportunities. There are pop-up models everywhere. people who come for a few months, they go through extra length investment and energy and talent to really make the space look good. And they go leaving it, well, you know, if the right person is selected, even better than it was sometimes before. So again, Mountain View High Street is losing up an opportunity to attract more people because it's doing unusual things to support talent and give opportunity. So those were my suggestions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm not seeing anyone else.
Okay. Teresa, thank you so much for attending. This has been great for us to listen to what you're doing, and
Thank you.
so
Thank you
let's
for
see
having
how
me.
we can help. Yes.
I can follow up with the committee.
Okay, yeah, so if we have any brilliant ideas, we can contact.
Brilliant.
We all have to show that.
Dumb
All
ideas.
brilliant ideas are welcome.
Someone's even.
All my ideas are brilliant.
Okay, great. Let's move on to item number 8, committee, staff comments, reports, et cetera, et cetera. I'll go ahead and get started. Mountain View Historical Association will be doing a walking tour on Sunday, October 22 at 2 p.m.
That starts at the train
At the train, yeah,
depot.
yeah, train station. Okay, Mr. Kasperzak has his hand up.
One other suggestion is PDDs. There is a developer that wants to do a new type of PDD in Mountain View. And so that actually might be something that would come forward as something, so.
What's a PDD?
Personal delivery devices.
Ooh, your favorite.
Oh, yes, those poor little devices that get
Loved-
harassed by little
loved to
children who block the path.
I
Okay.
did have one comment I wanted to provide, which was a question that came up at last meeting. The city does actually, through its purchasing division, have a local purchasing policy. There was a question about, do we have a local policy?
By local, right.
We do, the city's purchasing division does have that. So that is something that has been codified. Just wanted to answer that.
Anybody that was at the council meeting the other night knows that, right?
And I think it shows up on the city's website. There is a tab on purchasing or doing business with the city.
Did want to follow up on that since it was raised.
Kira.
So,
Just wanting to let everyone know that we're going to have Halloween on Castro. It's going to be on the 28th of October. So it will be 1 to 5 p.m. and Monte Carlo will have a bouncy house and a haunted house. And other businesses are going to deck themselves out and give out lots of candy. And it's actually really fun to see the adults as well as the kids come in the costumes.
It's so awesome.
So what date is that?
The 28th.
Think of all of you from Amalfi.
Okay,
so just one comment. Yesterday, remember last meeting, we talked about the sewer systems and how they're doing?
Right.
So yesterday, we were driving by and I saw this in action. We're going to do today, El Camino. They were staging on View Street all the way about 2 blocks instead of the pipe the earlier. Stage it and then they were saying they will dig it and just pull the whole thing out.
Right.
Pretty funny. It's all plastic, white color.
You can do that in your house too.
I should have done it, yeah. But it is amazing. I wanted to see the machine, but I mean, so I thought.
so your tax dollars at work.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, it worked, and I saw it, but it is a lot of work. I mean, I was wondering how to
Trenchless
do it.
piping, yeah.
Yeah, they stage it, they set up, line up, and
Yeah, it's amazing, yeah.
cones in there, and they're.
Pigging, isn't it called pigging where you pull it through or something?
Yeah.
So, I am going to be, I'll be gone November 7th. So Jamil, I'm assuming will be commandeering the ship. Do we have?
Commandeering or commanding?
Both, because I won't be here. So do we have, so I don't know what, don't think I'll be able to participate, I'll be somewhere in Egypt. So if I was able to,
So technically need a location
yep.
to put an
Post it,
agenda.
How about a ship on the Nile?
That works, but need some way to define it.
Okay, so how much in advance do you need to?
Well, the agenda posts the
Friday.
Thursday,
2
well,
hours.
technically the Thursday before the meeting, so.
Can you just not be absent for it?
She could be absent.
She's choosing to want.
That's right.
She's choosing, it's okay.
I don't want to
Get us
ruin
all-
my perfect attendance.
I assure you all, if I was in Egypt, I would not.
I know, there was
I would just-
no Egypt.
Paula, if you do it from Egypt, that would be the first, I think, somebody called from overseas.
Well, we'll see. So do we have a meeting in December? Do we know if we have enough to
The disease in the American
have a
culture.
meeting or?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Okay,
there's a few things that need to come back, for sure.
okay, all right, well, I just wanted to make sure that I, since I won't be probably participating, enough to cover in December. All right, great. Are there any other comments, Marina?
Just real quick, as far as like now that the holidays are coming up, I know last year somebody said, I'm not sure, but I just want to confirm this year as well, that we can kind of decorate our buildings with lights. Is that something that the city's still okay with?
Let's adjourn the meeting.
I'm like, that's time, okay? Let's talk about it, November.
Electrical cord that goes across the sidewalk.
I mean, not necessarily the but the building itself, you know, it's. Ah, okay. I just said that.
Amen.
Shh, technical issues.
Okay, so we are adjourning this at
It's 11:29.
Wow, that's
Hang up,
early.
hang up. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Have a